Well, hello everyone, it's Kari back again with you on the channel to share another fun card. This time I'm going to be using this stamp set, Oh Capy Day, from Miss Ink Stamps, and I'm going to pair it with this perfect match stamp set. This set has some candles in it that I thought would be cute to use with the capybaras. I already have some of these stamped and ready to be colored. You can see I've used a few of the images already. And I thought I would use up some of these others on a card, but we're going to use the stamp set in a different way. I'm also going to be bringing in the Eieio frame die, which has some really great frames, and I'm going to cut the smallest size to use for our panel, just making sure all our images are going to work with that. And I think that it will, so I'm going to go ahead and cut out this smallest frame. It's got a stitched border around it, so that adds a really great detail to the card. And now I'm going to take a couple of the candles and I'm going to stamp down 5 of them. So there are 2 candles in this stamp set, and it's a smaller stamp set. So I'm going to stamp a couple at a time, and then I'll change up where they are on the panel and stamp them again until I get 5 candles. I'm using Memento Tuxedo black ink because it is Copic friendly, and I need that especially for Copic coloring. So I'll stamp those down, then reposition them, stamp them again, and then take one more and stamp it again. To reposition them on my card, I do use this acrylic piece here from my Stamp-A-Majig. I put it down and then add the candle before I stamp it on the real thing. That makes sure I don't get a really weird shadow of the candle on my panel. I hope that makes sense. I do that a lot, and so I just wanted to do that really quickly here. But this piece on the Oh Capy Day stamp set is like a little pond, but I thought I'd turn it into a cake today. So it's another way to just stretch your stamps and use them for something other than what was intended. It's really fun to imagine different ways to use your stamp set. So I'm going to use it for a cake today. And I have this mint tape that's 1/4 inch. It's really, really thin, so I thought it was going to work perfect to cover up these candles and use as a mask. It ended up being just a little bit too wide, and you'll see because I am going to have to connect the lines a little bit. But I want to cover up these candles before I stamp down the pond that's going to turn into a cake, so that I don't get the lines all across the candles. Once I get those all masked off, I can stamp down this pond/cake and let that dry before I remove the mint tape. So I'm just going to set that aside for a minute because I'm going to color up these capybaras. I'm choosing a few of them to use for my card today, and I'm going to use some E shades of brown. I've got E35 here, and then I'll bring in an E33 and E31. And we're just going to color this through. I'm also going to add some dots to add some texture to this image, and I'll do that at the end, and you'll see that after I blend through all these colors. I'm using my normal favorite way to Copic color, which is starting with the darkest shade, then pulling that out with the mid-tone and blending that through with the lighter shades. Sometimes I'll use 3 colors, sometimes I'll use 4. It depends on the amount of contrast I want on a piece or what I'm in the mood for coloring, truth be told. So here I've used 4 different shades of the E30s, and I colored his body first, and next I'll go in and color up his face. So I'm leaving this portion in, but I'm just going to color up one capybara for you today, and the others I'll color off screen, and then I'm going to show you how to add that texture to these images. I'm just finishing coloring the littlest guy here. And these are the 3 images I've chosen to use today. I've also brought in some R81 to add a little pink to the ears. And now I'm adding the dots. So I'm starting with this darkest shade here, adding some dots around the outside. Then I'm going to bring in the medium shade and kind of blend those dots out a little bit and go a little bit further with the dots. Then I'll bring in a lighter shade and blend the rest of that and add a few to the top of his head as well. And that's really going to make it look like he has a little bit of furry hair there. I like the texture a lot. I think it's really fun. So there's a look at our little capybaras. And now I'm going to cut them out with the coordinating dies. So I'll just line them up just like this and use some really low tack tape to tape them down before running them through my die cut machine. You want to use a really nice low tack tape so it doesn't tear your image when you peel that off. And this tape I've used a couple of times before, so it's really light tack now. And now we can take a look and see how these candles turned out. So these capybaras are going to fit nicely. I'm going to remove the masks, and you'll see that the lines aren't fully connected because that mint tape was a little too wide. But that's okay. I'm going to bring in a little Sharpie marker. You could use a Copic multi-liner. And I'm just going to attach those dots, and then I'm going to bring the cake down just a little bit on the sides. After I did this and started placing my images, I kind of wish I would have just had the cake go all the way across. And instead of drawing a horizontal or a vertical line, I would have drawn a horizontal line. But we're going to make it work. It works out in the end. It's all good. So I'm just kind of placing my images and seeing where I want that sentiment to go. And when I have that kind of laid out in my mind, I can add the flames to the candles. There are 3 different flames in this set, so I am mixing them up a little bit so they don't all look exactly the same. And I do test out stamping on a separate piece of paper first before I stamp down onto my actual panel. And I'm just using an acrylic block to do this. So now I'm going to use the next 2 frame sizes to cut out a patterned paper and then a scalloped paper that's more of a solid color. And this pattern paper I've had in my stash for a long time. It's a doodlebug design, and I'm going to follow that design to color my candles and my cake. I'm going to use the same colors that are in that pattern paper. And that's sometimes how I choose my colors to color my images. It works really well. I'm just using some shades of yellow and a little bit of orange on the flames here. And now we can color the candles in themselves. And like I said, I tried to match some of the colors in this pattern paper. I'm going to bring in some of that lime green to color the striped candles. And I'm just going to alternate the lighter with the darker lime green. And I'm going to do both the striped candles the same or similar, same colors. And then I'll bring in that lighter color for the next shade. I ended up going with the next shade down for a little more contrast. So you can see, there we go, a little bit different here. And now for the polka dot candles, I'm going to use some shades of blue to match that blue polka dot in my pattern paper. And I'll use the darker polka dots here and then use a lighter shade to color the background of the candle. It's a little bit difficult to see in the video, but it's a little bit lighter of a shade here. BG10 is what I'm using. And I use the BG13 for the polka dot part. So just finishing to color in these candles. I love the blues and the greens together, but we need to bring in some of that pink from the polka dot paper. And I think I'm going to make a pink frosting. So I brought in a couple of shades. These are really bright pinks, but it's fun to have a bright cake for a birthday card. I've got RV13 and RV11 here, and I'll bring in the darker shade and then blend that out with the lighter shade. I could have brought in one more shade here, but I go over this RV11 a number of times to make it a little bit darker, and I think that worked out pretty well. For the frosting, now it's time to add that sentiment. I'm going to heat emboss it with silver embossing powder. So I can place it over the image just a little bit because hopefully that silver embossing powder will shine through. So I'm going to take some VersaMark ink, which is a clear sticky ink, stamp the sentiment down with that. And I usually stamp it a couple of times just to make sure that I get a good impression of that. And now I can add some silver embossing powder just over the top. And I'll heat set that using my heat tool. And I did get a little extra right here, so I'm going to use a small paintbrush to kind of brush away some of those powder pieces, and then I'll heat set that. Just like that. I love heat embossing still. It's what got me back into stamping. So Capy birthday to you, that's our sentiment. And now we can put this all together. Look how cute that looks with that polka dot paper in the background. So find something in your stash, and you can see on that yellow piece that has the scallop edge, I did cut out an image from that already, or a rectangle there, but you're not going to see it. It's going to be covered with our pattern paper, so it's fine. And then I'll add all of these. I am gluing down all of the layers just with liquid adhesive, and I'll pop up the capybaras with some foam tape to give it a little more dimension. So there are our layers, and let's bring in some foam adhesive for these. And we'll pop these up on either side of the candle, and then I'll add that little baby capybara to the front. So I should place this right about there. This one here. Now, I don't know about you, but if I saw a large rodent sitting on my birthday cake, I don't think I would be too pleased. But on a card, it's really, really cute. So I'm going to put the baby little guy right there. And let me show you a closer look at our card. I think these sets are fun together. And what do you think about that pond turned into a cake? It's kind of fun. So I hope you'll take this idea and run with it. Take a look at your stamp sets in a little bit different way, and maybe turn them into something that they're not and create a little scene. I hope you enjoyed this video today. Give it a thumbs up if you did. It really helps us out with our channel. Don't forget to subscribe as well so you don't miss a thing. And I'll be back to share more cards, more fun, more inspiration real soon. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.